Hey guys, it's Rachel, and I'm super excited to be here tonight with you. I am continuing on in my journey of beach money, and if you missed my first episode last night, be sure to go back to my wall. I am going through the book Beach Money by Jordan Adler. And it's just a book that I've had in my collection for a long time, and I figured I might as well read it and share with you what I've learned, just because you maybe don't have the book, and I think it's valuable insight for anyone who is looking to create the life of their dreams, whether that be through an entrepreneurial business or whatever other courageous adventure you have. So thanks for joining me. If you are just jumping on, drop me a 1 if you are watching live. If you are watching the replay, drop a 2 in the comments. And if this is your first time catching me live, just type new in the comments. Feel free to share with me where you are tuning in from. And I'm going to go ahead and get started because I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know we are all kind of in preparation mode for Thanksgiving. Hey, Melisha, thanks for joining. And so I don't want to take up too much time, but I found this chapter really valuable. It's actually chapter 3, and it's called It Rained on My Dreams That Day. And so it's actually a really short chapter. And so because I underlined pretty much 90% of it, I'm just going to go ahead and read it to y'all. I like reading out loud. I do it to my kids all the time, and I think it's valuable and impactful, and it'll only take me maybe 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I was severely depressed. I was not going to do anything drastic, but I was feeling lost and without purpose. It was a drizzly winter night in Tempe, Arizona. Over the years, I had read every self-help book I could get my hands on, and none of them helped. That rainy night, I was reflecting on my years of struggle. I could not seem to get ahead financially. Every personal relationship I was in seemed to end in disappointing breakup. Most of all, I had big expectations for my life by the time I hit 30, and so far, I was a complete failure. Nothing seemed to be going right. Does anybody feel like that? You can relate? I sure can. I threw on a sweatshirt and stepped out into my backyard. It was overcast, cold, and wet. The ground was soggy. I walked about 100 yards to the railroad tracks that cut across the back of the property. I started walking along the tracks in the rain, contemplating my life's purpose. Who hasn't done that before? This was not a positive environment for getting inspired. The night was misty and gray. A wet, cold wind was blowing in from the west, cutting across my path. I walked the tracks for about 5 miles as the rain came down and the wind swirled between the buildings and homes. I can see you guys commenting. Thanks so much for joining me. And JL, I hear you. You're agreeing with the fact that you feel like nothing seems to be going right in life right now. As I listened to my thoughts about why I could not get my life together, I reflected on the self-help books I had read over the years. Many of them suggested I write down my life dreams in a journal. The most successful authors would say that if you want to create something great in your life, you must first write it down like an architect writes out his plans to build a building. I had read this idea many times over the years, but I had never done it. Okay, how many times have you guys heard that? Write your vision down, make it clear. You need to write down what you want, right? We've heard it, but how many of you have actually done that? I haven't, and I actually live in that environment on a day-to-day basis. I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. The authors all said that by putting my dreams in writing on paper, I would be asking the universe to bring me those things that I desire. They suggested I write my dreams in the present tense as if they had already happened, but for some reason, I had never done the exercise. After getting home and drying off, I decided I would finally apply some of this advice. The next day, I went to the store and bought a journal and a felt tip pen, and I headed for the airport. I worked for an airline then, and I had flight benefits, so I jumped on a small airplane to the Grand Canyon. I had lived in Arizona for about 5 years and had never visited the canyon. As I deplaned, I noticed the air was fresh and cool. There were pine trees everywhere. I jumped on a shuttle bus that dropped me off in a small parking lot close to the rim of the canyon. No postcard or photo could capture the beauty of the Grand Canyon. Hey, if you've been to the Grand Canyon, drop me a mountain in the comments. I have not ever been there, but I know it's beautiful and I would love to get there. After embracing the breathtaking views, I decided to talk out into the forest. I found a quiet place under an old oak tree that stood about 3 miles into the woods. I sat on the ground and leaned back against the trunk of the tree. I grabbed my new journal and pen and began to write the story of my life as if it had already happened. I wrote in the present tense, and I wrote vividly and clearly. My descriptions were alive and vibrant. For the next few hours, I set aside all of my doubts and fears and apprehensions about what was possible. I simply wrote from a place of complete honesty and possibility. My descriptions included the people, places, and things that are important to me. I wrote about my personal life, my business life, my dreams and desires. I described myself physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. About 2 hours into my writing, the weather began to change. In Arizona, in the mountains, the weather can change very rapidly. The wind began to blow and the temperature dropped about 20 degrees. All of a sudden, some heavy gray cumulus clouds formed over the top of the mountain where I sat, and the temperature dropped another 10 degrees. I realized that I should probably begin my journey back because I sensed that it might start raining. I was right. Within a few seconds, it started to rain. The rain was cold and the wind continued to blow. Hey, Beatrice, thanks for joining. If anyone here is from Arizona, drop me an AZ in the comments. I would love to know if there's anyone on here from Arizona that can relate to this. I did my best to hold my journal close to my body to keep it dry, but the pages got soggy. I walked quickly back toward the edge of the canyon. Hey, Ashley Petty, how many pages of your journals have gotten soggy? I walked quickly back toward the edge of the canyon as the temperature dropped to about 35 degrees. The rain turned into sleet just as I entered the Bright Angel Lodge. I opened my journal. Some of the ink had run down the damp pages. The warmth from the fire burning in the huge fireplace across the room was inviting and filled the room. I sat down on some colorful cushions next to the fire and continued to write the story of my life. Don't worry, you guys, there's a point to me reading this whole chapter. For the next few hours, I lost myself in my future life. But as I wrote, I began to live it in my mind, as if it had already happened. Later, I would realize that this was the most important moment of the whole journey. I got back on the plane and headed for Phoenix. Just as the self-help gurus suggested, I placed my journal next to my bed on my nightstand, which was 2 cinder blocks and a piece of wood. Sounds like a very unsuccessful moment in life, right? When your nightstand is cinder blocks and wood. Every night for the next year, I would read 1 or 2 pages from it. Each time I read, I got more and more excited. I anxiously awaited my new life. A year had gone by, and nothing from my journal had come true. Not one thing. I felt duped. Once again, I had failed. What was wrong with me? I took that little journal and threw it in a box in my closet and forgot about it. How many of us have been there and done that? Looking for something to change. And a year can feel like a long time, but at the same time, a year is not a lot of time at all. 7 years later, I smile at my girlfriend as we continue to unload my new cabin furniture into the living room of my dream home in the forest. My new home is a beautiful log-sided mountain retreat with a huge wraparound deck and cathedral ceilings. It backs up to the national forest land, and I have pine trees growing up through the wooden decks. The air is fresh and clean. When a breeze blows, the trees sound just like the ocean. The air is so clean that when you breathe it, it almost hurts your lungs. At night, the Milky Way looks like a streak of smoke cutting across the sky. It's pure heaven. As I am opening boxes, I notice a journal on top of a pile of books. It was a journal that I had written at the Grand Canyon 7 years earlier. I'd opened the journal, read the first 2 pages, and started to cry. Everything in this journal had come true in my life. I now had the home of my dreams. I was driving the car of my dreams. I was physically fit and happy. I had an amazing girlfriend who has become my lifetime friend, and I had a passive residual beach money income of over $30,000 per month that allowed me to travel the beaches of the world. I had found my dream life. I really don't know why this works. I'm not a psychologist or a metaphysicist, but I do know that if you grab a pen and notebook and find a quiet, inspiring place where you can write for a few hours, you can do the exact same thing that I did and continue to do each year of my life. Consider writing the story of your future life in the present tense as if it had already happened. Set aside all your fears, doubts, and apprehensions about what's possible and just write as if you were a child again, dreaming from your heart. Write until you have your entire life exactly how you want it. Then read 1 or 2 pages a night for about a year, and then throw it in a box. And that is the end of that chapter. So now, if you were on with me the whole time, you can see why I wanted to just read that chapter to you, because just hearing his story, you're welcome, Beatrice, thanks for joining. Just hearing Jordan Adler's story of how, well, lots of things, you know, he wrote exactly how he wanted it to be and listened to the suggestions to read it every day for a year, and nothing happened. I mean, how many times do we do something and we think we've done it for long enough and we see no promise of any change, and then all of a sudden, when we're least expecting it, we can look back and say, oh my goodness, it happened. And it happened just like I had planned for it, but wasn't paying attention as it was happening, and because I wanted it quicker than it was coming. I remember just a small story from when my daughter was a baby. She was 9 months old, and I kind of decided late in the game at 9 months old that I wanted to teach her sign language, and so I started teaching her, and for about 3 months I taught her sign language, and got all these flashcards, and it was just like the deer in the headlights stare from her every time. But then we were in Walmart one day, and I was looking at the board books for kids, and I showed her a picture of a banana, and all of a sudden I see her go like this and make the sign for banana, and I was like, oh my goodness, she did pick it up, it did register. It was like 3 months later. It just took her that long for it to sink in and connect, and a banana is one of the harder signs as a 9-month-old. But she got it, and so we tend to want that instant gratification. We hear it all the time, but just those instant results, and sometimes we just need to be patient. The other thing I love about this chapter is the ability to write your future life as you want it to look, as though you are living it currently right now, is honestly a really difficult thing. I'm sure many of you would agree with me that writing in present tense according to what you don't have now, but what you would like and how you would like your life to look, is a very, very difficult task. But I have a little insight as to how I know that firsthand. Quite honestly, you guys, this is part of my everyday life. One of the companies that I work for, we actually teach people how to write a vision for their life, and every area of your life, just like this book mentioned, your business, your personal, actually your business is the least that we focus on, but your personal life, your relationships, your spirituality, your health, your relationship with your kids, your relationship with your spouse. We actually, that's what my company does, is we teach people how to create visions for their life so that they have a plan and they have a path, and they can look at everything that comes into their life and say, does this get me further ahead in my vision, or does this take me behind in my vision? And so I've been with this company for a year, and I have struggled to write my vision I have yet to have a complete vision written out because it's a very difficult task. Like it said, you have to put down all your inhibitions, lay down all the impossibilities, and just write as if anything is possible. Anything that you want, you can have. And that's a really difficult thing to do. And so I like the idea of writing it down more like a story. I think that has been something that has kind of made me trip up in this process, is honestly having to think about it and structure it. Sometimes that makes it difficult because that takes too much thinking. But if I can just write it in a story as if I'm living the story of my life, I think that might be a little bit easier. So I would like to challenge you guys, after you're done watching this video, after you've listened to this chapter that I read to you guys, hey, if you are going to sit down and just get lost for a few hours in your thoughts and dreams about what you want your life to look like, and you're going to write that story, let me know. Drop the word story in the comment if you are going to, let's say in the next, I know it's Thanksgiving here, so maybe in the next week, you are going to take time to just get lost in your story. I would love to hear about that. So drop me the word story in the comments if you're going to do that, so that I can follow up with you guys and just see how that went for you, and how it made you feel, and if it was difficult, or if you feel excited about the story that you created. That's awesome, Beatrice. I see that Beatrice is going to do it, and I'm super excited for you. I'm actually going to sit down with my kids and do this tonight as well, because I think it's important to do it no matter what age you're at, to have a vision and a dream for your life. And that's one thing that I never did as a child. I have a very hard time imagining and creating things that aren't real at the moment. I'm a very black and white, realist type of person. So if you're just jumping on now, thank you so much for joining me. I want you to go back to the beginning, because I read a really powerful chapter from the book Beach Money. And I thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Share this. If you found value in this video, please share it with those who think it will help. That is what I am here for with this. I just want to share the information, and hopefully it will move you guys in a forward direction in your own lives. And just to touch on this lipstick that I'm sporting tonight, it's totally not my norm. I thought I would try something punchy and poppy, because I have a good friend who wears really bright lipstick, and it's always so fun on her, and I thought I'd try it. Not sure if I really like it. I'm not sure if I'll ever wear it again, but hey, you gotta try some things in life and see how it goes. So that's the deal behind the lipstick. Yay, Ashley Petty is in too. Awesome. Love it, Ashley. That's going to be so valuable for all of us. So like I said, make sure to drop the word story in the comments if you're going to join me in this fun little challenge and experiment. And share this video if you got value in it. You guys have a great Thanksgiving. I am going to come on tomorrow with the next chapter in the book, Beach Money. So I hope I can see you guys tomorrow on here. Have a great night.